What if you could wipe away every tear, every scar, every moment of anguish from your life? Imagine a magic wand that erases the pain, leaving only sunshine and ease. It's a seductive thought, isn't it? Who wouldn't want to banish the memories that haunt us, the wounds that linger long after the blow? But pause for a moment. One of history's most daring thinkers, Friedrich Nietzsche, believed that the path to human greatness winds directly through the storms we'd rather avoid. He didn't see suffering as a curse to escape, but as a fire that refines us. Think back to your own darkest hour, perhaps a loss that hollowed you out, a failure that etched itself into your being, or a stretch of uncertainty that seemed to stretch into forever. How did it change you? Would you be the person you are today without it? In this exploration, we'll dive into Nietzsche's radical vision, where pain becomes the chisel of the soul, carving a greatness we might never otherwise know. Because what if the very thing we flee is the seed of our truest flourishing? Picture a life when every step is shadowed by struggle, not just the quiet ache of the heart, but a relentless physical torment that claws at your days. Nietzsche lived this reality. From his earliest years, he battled a body that betrayed him, chronic vision problems dimming his world, migraines that pounded like hammers in his skull, and a solitude that wasn't chosen but imposed. Relationships slipped through his fingers, intellectual peers stood a distance, and society's comforts offered no refuge. His existence wasn't just touched by suffering, it was steeped in it, a raw, unfiltered immersion that shaped not just a philosopher who pondered pain, but one who embodied it. Yet, where others might have seen only despair, Nietzsche saw a forge. Pain, he argued, wasn't an evil to outrun or a burden to cast off. It was a transformative force, a wind that sculpts mountains over eons, a storm that rips away dead branches to coax new growth. It breaks us open, yes, but in that breaking it renews. Think of nature's own lessons. Trees in a windy forest don't stand untouched. They sway, they bay, and endure a constant push that might seem cruel. But it's this very resistance that anchors their roots deep into the earth, that toughens their trunks to stand tall against the gales. Without the wind's unrelenting pressure, they'd grow brittle, fragile, unprepared for the storms that life inevitably brings. Nietzsche saw suffering in us the same way, a force that challenges, that shapes, that strengthens. It's not in comfort that we discover who we are, he believed, but at the edges of our endurance, where we're forced to face our frailties and find a resilience we didn't know we carried. In a world that chases ease like a holy grail, nature offers a quieter truth. Discomfort is the crucible of evolution. Picture suffering as the pressure that turns coal into a diamond, a slow, arduous process hidden in darkness. Without that weight, that heat, coal remains just coal, unremarkable and unchanged. Pain jolts us awake, shakes us from the autopilot of routine, and demands we look deeper, seek further, imagine paths where once we saw only dead ends. Now let's paint a scene. A man wakes to a phone call that shatters his world, his job, his lifeline is gone. Overnight, stability crumbles, and panic rushes him like a flood. Bills pile up, a relentless reminder of his new reality. His children's eyes, wide with trust, search his face at the dinner table, waiting for answers he doesn't have. The silence is suffocating, each glance a plea for the security he can no longer promise. In those first days, helplessness wraps around him like a shroud, fear freezing his steps. But time doesn't wait. Standing still isn't an option. He polishes his resume, sends it into the ether, but the replies are slow, faint echoes in a void. Savings shrink, forcing hard choices. First, the small joys vanish, weekend outings and treats for the kids. Then, the deeper cuts, like postponing their schooling, a dream deferred. The weight presses down, but something shifts. Sleepless nights breed reflection, and a buried passion stirs, maybe a knack for fixing things, a love for cooking, or a skill with a needle and thread. A cousin suggests selling online, a lifeline tossed in desperation. He tries it, fumbling at first, but slowly, this makeshift venture takes root, sprouting income when none existed. What began as survival whispers of purpose. Let's be clear, this isn't about romanticizing pain. Nietzsche didn't drape suffering in rosy hues just to seek it out like some noble quest. There's nothing inherently good in agony, no virtue in its sting. His point was sharper, more grounded. When suffering crashes into our lives, unbidden and unavoidable, we face a choice. Do we let it drown us, or do we claw our way through, mining it for meaning, for growth? This isn't masochism, a perverse delight in torment. It's resilience, a refusal to let the inevitable define us. Nietzsche turns our gaze to Prometheus, the mythic rebel who defied the gods to gift humanity fire, the spark of knowledge and progress. His reward? Eternal torture, his flesh devoured day after day. Yet from that endless pain rose something vast, the dawn of civilization. His suffering wasn't just a punishment, it was a catalyst, a sacrifice that lit the world. Pain, when woven into purpose, can birth the extraordinary. It's not merely a load to shoulder, it's a lever to lift us beyond ourselves. Here's where Nietzsche throws us his boldest gauntlet, Amor, Fati, the love of fate. The words hum with weight, a challenge that feels almost otherworldly. But what does it mean to love your fate? It's not a passive nod to life's whims, a resigned it is what it is. It's an embrace, a fierce, full-throated yes to every moment, the highs and the lows, the laughter and the tears. It's standing in the wreckage of your plans and saying, I choose this, all of it. I wouldn't erase a single stroke. This isn't about giving up. It's about stepping up, rejecting the futile scramble to control what can't be tamed. Think of a sailor on a stormy sea. He doesn't curse the wind or fight it head-on. He adjusts his sails, rides its currents, finds his course within its power. Nietzsche believed that by letting go of resistance, we unlock a deeper freedom, a chance to find meaning in every twist of our story, even the painful ones. Viktor Frankl lived this truth. In the nightmare of the Holocaust, surrounded by loss and cruelty, he chose his stance, seeking purpose where none seemed possible. His logotherapy, born from that abyss, teaches that even in suffering, we hold the power to shape our response. Pain doesn't just wound, it reveals. Art whispers this same truth across centuries. Vincent van Gogh's The Starry Night whirls with a restless beauty, a canvas of melancholy and hope painted from a mind in turmoil. He didn't turn from his darkness, he poured it into his brush, crafting something that still stirs souls. Amor Fati isn't forced cheer, it's courage, a release of the urge to rewrite the past and the embrace of its lessons. Nietzsche's Ubermensch, the overman, emerges here, not dodging pain but wielding it like a tool, forging new values from the ashes of struggle. Picture us, Ord Smith at work. The strongest blade isn't born from gentle hands. It's thrust into searing heat, hammered without mercy, cooled with precision. That brutal dance of fire and force makes it unbreakable. We, too, are forged in suffering's flames, tempered by its blows into a strength we never knew we could claim. Nelson Mandela's 27 years in prison could have crushed him, a spirit entombed in stone. Instead, he turned captivity into a crucible, emerging not with bitterness, but with forgiveness, leading a fractured nation toward wholeness. Are we, in our haste to numb every ache, missing this chance to become more? Today's world drowns in distractions, a society sprinting from discomfort at every turn. Social media scrolls endlessly, shows stack up for binging, purchases arrive with a click, and pills promise to smooth every edge. But Nietzsche would pause us here, his voice cutting through the noise. By fleeing pain, are we fleeing growth? The more we hide, the more fragile we become, untested against life's inevitable tempests. Suffering isn't a mistake to fix, it's a teacher to heal. Beethoven, deaf and despairing, didn't let silence stop him. From that void, he birthed the Ninth Symphony, a hymn to human triumph that echoes still. And Frank, cloistered, in hiding, faced a world of terror with a pen, heard eerie a fragile thread of hope that became a universal light. Art shows us pain can weave beauty, that chaos can sing harmony. So, why do we run? Mindfulness offers a tether, a breath to feel without fleeing. Write a letter to your future self, trace your struggles' contours, and one day marvel at the distance you've crossed. Suffering doesn't fade, but it shapes, it scars a map of resilience. Let's linger on that man who lost his job. The days stretch long after that first shock, each one a battle against despair. He sits at his kitchen table, the clock ticking louder than his thoughts, bills fanned out like a deck of losing cards. His wife's voice is soft but strained, asking what's next, and he has no words to give her. The kids sense it too, their chatter quieter, their questions sharper. He feels the weight of their trust, a burden he's not sure he can carry. But necessity is a stern muse. He digs through old boxes, finds a sewing machine he once loved. It's a faint memory of happier times. Thread by thread, he stitches again, first for himself, then for others. A neighbor buys a scarf and shares a post, and soon a small stream of orders trickles in. It's not the life he planned, but it's a life he's building, stitch by stitch, from the ruins of what was. Pain didn't hand him a miracle, it handed him a mirror, reflecting a strength he'd forgotten. Nietzsche's bridge stretches further. He saw suffering as the path to the Ubermensch, a figure who doesn't just endure but transcends, crafting meaning from chaos. Think of a sculptor with a block of marble. Each chip, each crack, is a step toward the form within. The stone doesn't choose its shape, the artist does, wielding tools against its resistance. We, too, are both stone and sculptor, shaped by pain but shaping it back. Mandela didn't just survive his cell, he reimagined it, turning confinement into a space of vision. His release wasn't the end of suffering's work, but the beginning of its fruit, a nation stitched together by a man who refused to break. Nietzsche asks us, what if every wound is a chisel? What if every blow is a chance to carve something greater? Let's widen the lens. Society today treats pain like a glitch, a bug to be patched with quick fixes. We scroll through feeds to drown out sadness, binge shows to bury boredom, buy things to fill the quiet. When that fails, we reach for stronger medicine, pills to dull the edges of a life we won't face. Nietzsche would call this a flight from existence itself. Pain isn't an intruder, it's a resident, a thread in the tapestry of being. By numbing it, we numb ourselves, trading depth for shallow calm. Beethoven didn't medicate his deafness, he composed through it, his silence roaring with life. Van Gogh didn't erase his madness, he painted it, stars blazing against a night he knew too well. Art doesn't flee suffering, it dances with it, turning shadow into light. So why do we? The more we dodge, the less we grow, our roots shallow in a soil we won't let the storms touch. Mindfulness beckons us back. Sit with your pain, not to wallow, but to witness. Feel the tightness in your chest, the racing of your thoughts, and breathe into it. It's not about fixing it fast. It's about letting it be, letting it teach. Or take a pen and write to the you of tomorrow. Spill out the heaviness of now, the fear that grips you, the hope you cling to. Today, I'm lost, you might say. The ground's gone, and I don't know if I'll land. But I'm trying, step by step, to find my way. Future me, when you read this, I hope you see how far we've come. One day, you'll unfold that letter, and the past will stare back, a testament to a strength you doubted. Pain doesn't vanish in these acts. It integrates, becoming a voice in the chorus of your life, not the solo that drowns it out. Let's circle back to nature. The mountain doesn't curse the wind that wears it down. It stands reshaped, enduring. The tree doesn't fight the storm that bends it. It grows stronger, its roots clutching deeper. Nietzsche saw us in these patterns, not as victims of suffering but as its students. Prometheus didn't just suffer, he ignited a world. Frankl didn't just survive, he found meaning in the unthinkable. Their pain wasn't the end, it was the spark. So what of yours? That loss that gutted you, Did it teach you to hold tighter to what remains? That failure that burned, did it light a fire to try again? Nietzsche's Amor Fati isn't a call to love pain itself, but to love the life it's part of, to see every scar as a stroke in your portrait. Art keeps showing us this. The Starry Night isn't just a painting, it's a cry, a hymn, a man's soul laid bare. The Ninth Symphony isn't just notes, it's a deaf composer shouting defiance and joy. And Frank's diary isn't just words, it's a girl's faith shining through darkness. These aren't tales of escape, they're tales of transformation, pain spun into gold. Nietzsche believed this alchemy is our birthright, that suffering, when faced, becomes a wellspring of beauty and meaning. The Ubermensch doesn't deny the storm, they ride it, harnessing its fury to soar. Mandela didn't bury his 27 years, he built on them, a foundation for a nation's rebirth. What could you build on yours? We're not done with that man and his sewing machine. Months pass, and the orders grow. He's not rich, not yet, but he's breathing again. His kids see him smile, tentative at first, then real. His wife joins him, her hands steady on the fabric, their partnership a quiet strength. The panic fades, not gone but tamed, a shadow that no longer rules. He's not the man he was before the call, he's more, reshaped by a pain he didn't choose but met head-on. Nietzsche would nod here. This is the bridge, the crossing from what was to what can be. Suffering didn't save him, his response did, a slow, stubborn climb from the ashes. Society's flight from pain grows louder. We medicate not just the body but the soul, chasing a numbness that promises peace but delivers fragility. Distractions pile up, a fortress against feeling, but the walls are thin. Nietzsche would warn, this isn't living, it's hiding. Pain isn't the enemy, avoidance is. Beethoven's deafness didn't stop his song. Van Gogh's torment didn't still his brush. Frankel's hell didn't silence his hope. They faced their storms and the world is richer for it. What richness are we losing in our rush to look away? Mindfulness isn't a cure, it's a mirror, showing us what is. Writing to your future self isn't a fix, it's a promise, a marker of the strength you'll find. These aren't escapes, they're embraces, ways to live with pain, not despite it. Let's stretch this further. Imagine a woman whose marriage dissolves, a slow unraveling she didn't see coming. The house feels too big, the silence too loud. She replays every fight, every missed chance, blaming herself until the weight buckles her knees. Friends drift away, unsure what to say, and she's left with her thoughts, a chorus of doubt. But one day, she picks up a paintbrush, something she loved as a girl. The strokes are clumsy, the colors muddled, but they're hers. She paints the ache, the loneliness, the flickers of hope she can't yet name. A friend sees it, insists she share it. Hesitant, she does, and strangers respond, their words a lifeline. She's not whole, not yet, but she's moving, pain her muse instead of her master. Nietzsche's bridge again, suffering as the path, not the prison. The Ubermensch looms large here, not a superhero but a possibility. It's not about perfection, it's about creation, turning pain into power, chaos into order. Mandela didn't just endure, he envisioned. Frankl didn't just survive, he taught. They didn't erase their suffering, they used it, a lever to lift themselves and others. Nietzsche asks, what's your lever? That job loss, that heartbreak, that endless night. What can they lift you toward? Amor Fati isn't a demand to smile through tears, it's a dare to see the tears as part of the whole, to weave them into a life you'd choose again. Nature keeps teaching us. The river doesn't fight the rocks in its path, it carves around them, shaping canyons over time. The seed doesn't resist the soil's weight, it pushes through, breaking into light. Suffering is our rock, our soil, a force we don't control but can navigate. Prometheus stole fire, yes, but he paid for it and was still warmed by his gift. Beethoven's silence birthed sound. Van Gogh's night blazed with stars. Frankel's chains forged freedom. Pain isn't the end, It's the beginning, a call to rise, to create, to become. What's calling you? Nietzsche's vision turns suffering from a shadow into a flame, a guide to a freedom found not in ease but in embrace. True freedom lies in facing life's storms, dancing within their chaos, claiming every step as yours. Look back at your own battles, the lessons they've etched into your bones. Share them below, the hardest moments, the ones you're wrestling now. Then come back someday, see how you've grown, how strength rose where pain once reigned. Like this video, subscribe, tell us what moves you next, we'll craft it together. For as Nietzsche knew, in the wildest chaos, the brightest stars take flight.